Howdy, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It is October 18th, 2022. I'm Trey Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? First night of basketball season, so I'm excited.
Mhm.
I know you don't care very much. We got a lot to talk
Not
about
until
tonight.
later in the year. Later in the year, I'll
Yeah,
start to get into it. It's just too many games for me.
yeah. The got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about piss drinking and impersonating police officers, which are always fun
Hmm.
topics for a show like ours, and how they relate to American politics and the sign of the decline of a once great empire. Uh,
Yep.
but
Sounds
before we
very
get to
on
that,
brand.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Before we get to that, to show a couple things. So Kanye's buying Parlor, the
I
right
saw
wing
that.
social media thing, and everybody's framing it as like some great, and it's like the equivalent of Elon buying Twitter, but it's not for a lot of reasons. One, Parlor only has like 40,000 daily users, which is like, I don't know, the amount of cars that pass in the street in front of my house in a given day. But also the funny part about this to me, go ahead, Tar.
I just didn't. I didn't. Obviously, I remember when Parler first became a thing, but I hadn't even realized that it had continued to be a thing, really, because I thought they were truthing socially now, like Truth Social.
Yeah,
I
there's
thought,
also
but
there's also Gab. There's also Rumble, the right wing YouTube. But yeah, so Parler is still around, but yeah, almost nobody uses it. Um, so for context, so I think everybody's probably heard something about Kanye lately. He tweeted and posted on Instagram a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. I mean, explicitly
yeah,
anti-Semitic stuff, and got kicked off those platforms. So he's essentially buying his own platform so he can post all the anti-Jewish stuff he wants. But he also he's been on a manic for a long time. But like he did a thing last week where he publicly announced he was quitting his bank because J.P. Morgan Chase, I think, because whichever one Jamie Dimon is the president of. Because he was mad because Jamie Dimon wouldn't return his phone calls, so he was going to quit the bank. But then he acted like he's being canceled, like they were dumping his bank accounts because of anti-Semitism, which is not what happened. Because we all know money is amoral and banks don't care
oh
about stuff
yeah,
like that. I mean they all got founded based on stolen Nazi gold, so let's not like act like they wouldn't take Kanye's money. But so anyway, Candace Owens is in this too because she's the one who went to his fashion show and they both wore the White Lives
yeah,
Matter shirts.
yeah.
That's got him on Tucker Carlson. But so Candace Owens' husband is the CEO of Parler. So another way to read this is Candace has manipulated a mentally ill person into giving her husband $56 million to bail him out of a failed investment.
That's how much he
So
bought it for. $56 million.
yeah, so like
That's
1.3 million for every person who uses the website daily.
right. Yeah, yeah. I don't know that the ROI on that is going to be particularly good, but Kanye's like a billionaire, right? So maybe he's just hooking
Yeah.
Candace up, I guess.
The next little story I want to talk about is John Durham's final effort at proving Trump innocent for Russiagate stuff flamed out in court today. Durham's a special prosecutor appointed by Trump to investigate the origins of the FBI investigation into his dealings with Russia. This guy named Igor Danchenko. It's worth pointing out here that like all this was wish casting. That's like from another planet and involves like time not being linear because in order for this scheme that they're alleging, which is Obama and Biden and Hillary and the deep state or whatever, conspired to frame Trump by opening this investigation, but didn't actually announce the investigation was happening until after Trump was already inaugurated or right before he was inaugurated. So it doesn't even make any sense as a plot. That's never really mattered to them. And Trump, it's worth pointing out, Trump did have a bunch of weird connections with Russia. It did happen. Everybody could see it. He from hiring half his campaign staff that were working for Russian oligarchs, to his campaign manager working for free, who was being paid by a Russian oligarch, to the weird stuff he said about Russia, and he lied about not having business deals in Russia when he was like being dangled hundreds of millions of dollars by people close to Putin, which is bad for American president.
Yeah,
You have investments overseas, that's one thing, but also when you're lying about them, that opens you up to blackmail. Which happens
right.
a lot in European governments. I think Germany just suspended one of its intelligence chiefs for ties to Russian intelligence. This is a worldwide problem. But Americans just don't like follow foreign politics. They don't really know about it. But the guy who was tried was funny. It's funny to me because with a lot of this spy shit that we talk about a lot, there's no way to like. All these dudes are liars.
Yeah,
And
professionally.
yeah, that's what they do.
It's sort of their whole thing. Yeah.
And so in this case revolves around this guy named Igor Danchenko, who was born in Russia, was living in America for a long time. And he was accused of lying to FBI agents. But when the FBI agents got put on the stand, one of the reasons he was acquitted was like, this guy was actually a super valuable source, and you guys burned him by arresting him. And so
Yeah, so the whole idea is supposed to be just proving that all the Russiagate stuff was bullshit. It's what they're trying to do by take down the conspirators like this guy. They're saying like this guy lied as part of the big conspiracy to frame Trump for Russiagate, and that's what they're trying to prove, and they failed at that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did bust one guy for lying on I think a warrant affidavit or something. So, congrats to the John Durham investigation for uncovering the one law enforcement official who exaggerates stuff in charging documents and warrant affidavits. You did it. you found the one guy. This Danchenko guy is funny to me because one of the things that made him well known among people that are known in this world is he published a takedown of Vladimir Putin's doctoral dissertation where he alleged plagiarism. So he got Putin to pray. He took Putin down.
Yeah, that'll show him. It's funny that Putin even, and I guess I don't know when he got his PhD or when that happened, but it's funny to me that he even went through the effort of plagiarizing it. You know what I mean? Like Putin's dissertation could have just been like, give me PhD. And they're standing ovation. Here's your PhD, sir. Thank you, glorious leader, or whatever. So at least he tried.
Professor's even going to give him a B. She ended up falling out of a window.
Yeah, right.
The whole thing's fucking. This is the guy who stages hockey games where you're thrown in prison if you play defense. He scores 8 games. His name MVP.
Yeah.
So you're right. He was
the title of his thesis was like the positive correlation between not giving me a PhD and defenestration, spontaneous defenestration, as presented by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, the whole thing's so fucking stupid. Anyway, John Durham got humiliated, but he probably served his purpose because he injected a lot of right-wing bullshit disinformation into not just right-wing media, but the way that the New York Times and stuff covered this with their both sides are equal bullshit is, made people question stuff that is pretty straightforward. Another thing, some good news before we talk about DeSantis, because I need a palate cleanser. Drug companies, and maybe they're lying to probably boost share prices, but they say they expect to be able to roll out cancer vaccines by 2030.
Like all cancer or what?
I imagine it'll start with a few then, because they're going to be different vaccines for different cancers.
Okay, but the big question mark, what's that going to do for my 5G coverage, right? Or my magnetism? That's what I really want to know. This so-called vaccine for the so-called cancer you're talking about sounds like a deep state ploy to me. No, that's great. I do kind of feel like every now and then, at least on Reddit and places like that, I'll see a headline about some crazy results in some cancer research or whatever, and then you look in the comments and there's always somebody in there like, debunking it completely. It's like the reason this is bullshit, will never work, is yada yada. So but sure would be sweet though.
Yeah, I mean, the last science class I took was Chem for Kids, and I got a D in it. It almost flunked me out of college, so I'm not going to pretend to understand how mRNA works. But they tell me it's good news, and I'm choosing to believe it because I don't want to die of cancer.
Right.
But yeah, it probably will be full of micro robots, and what'll happen is you have to subscribe for $6 a month to a non-cancer app, and then put in a captcha to prove your colon's not a robot or something. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Ron DeSantis for a minute, because remember we talked a couple weeks ago about him framing those 20 people for voter fraud in order to arrest them on some trumped up bullshit when they were told they were allowed to vote after Florida citizens passed a ballot initiative to allow them to vote. Tampa Bay newspaper got a hold of the body cam footage from those arrests and rolled it out today. And I want to watch a little bit of it because it's pretty fucking, it's grossly funny how apologetic the cops are about even doing this. If you want to roll that, Matt.
So apparently, I guess you have a warrant?
For what?
Sure.
For voter stuff, man.
For voters.
It's what it is. I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
I didn't.
So,
What are they talking
That's
about?
what we're not the case agents, but what you got to do, they
Yeah.
have reduced
So
your
you get the
bond quite a
vibe.
bit.
You kind
Yeah,
of
dude, you know it's some bullshit when the cops are like, "Listen, man, we're real sorry about this, but here's the deal." As opposed to, putting a knee in your back and shooting your dog and all that stuff. It's a pretty different approach in this particular case. I feel like it's sort of telling.
As much as we rag on cops, you want to say that's how cops are supposed to be. They walk up to you calmly, explain to you calmly while you're being arrested, treat you with empathy. It's not that fucking hard. That guy, when he got arrested, his name's Tony Patterson. He says later on the tape, "What is wrong with his state, man? Voter fraud? Y'all said anybody with a felony could vote, man," and he's fucking right.
Is the idea here just to sort of get some statistics or stories that he could point to later and be like, look, voter fraud is real and we are combating it in this state. Like, that's the whole idea here, even though it's some technicality bullshit, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, the statute clearly says you have to willingly voted fraudulently, and they were told they could vote by a government official. So they fully believe they're within their rights. And the reason they're not within their rights is because DeSantis moved the goalposts, and they instituted a bunch of if you haven't followed it closely, they have a poll tax thing where the ballot initiative wording said once you paid your debt to society or some such. And so the DeSantis administration is interpreting that to include fines and reparations, which, okay, whatever, fine. But you can't even figure out how much you owe. They made the website so confusing that you can't even figure out who to pay or how much you owe in order to get your right to vote back. So they just completely nullified the ballot initiative. This woman named Ramona Oliver was told what she was being arrested for, and she said, "Voter fraud. I voted, but I ain't committing no fraud." And she's fucking right. These people are just being harassed into the ground. The cops, the first guy they were being we got set your bail low. It's only $500 per charge, so only $1,000. And anybody who's ever paid bail knows you don't get that money back unless you that amounts if you go to a bail bondsman. It's not the total amount. So that's the amount you're paying a bail bondsman to pay the total amount to get back. So it's $1,000 we'll never get back for trumped up bullshit. And most Americans can't afford to just dump $1,000 on dumb bullshit. So it's just the whole thing's really fucking stupid and annoying.
Bunch of dumb bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the cops think so.
Well, speaking of dumb bullshit, let's get into the rest of the show. Am I right? With us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. I do want to remind y'all, of course, real quick, two things. If you'd like to see me perform live, go to TreyCrowder.com. Got a few more shows the rest of this year, ramping up big time in 2023, though. Many of them are listed on there already. Need to update my graphic there. But yeah, come see if I'm coming near you. And if so, let's do it. Come and see me, TreyCrowder.com. Number two, if you like this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. I've got some other offerings on Patreon too you can check out. If you're interested, go to weeklyskews.com/more or just go on Patreon, look me up, sign up on there, get some more skews in your life and support the show in the process. We sure would appreciate it. Now, as for tonight's episode, we're 3 weeks removed from the big midterm elections, and it seems the outlook might be dimming for the Democrats, reportedly due to economic concerns on behalf of the voters. Because after all, what are reproductive rights and the future of democracy in the face of these damn gas prices, guys? We'll break it all down a little later, but first, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, any punk-ass New York City rat who don't make like Fievel and go west while they still can. That's right. Listen to the city's leadership lay down the law in this clip.
Fighting crime, fighting inequality, fighting rats. Some of the same folks are criticizing us now called me a murderer because I was killing rats. I hate rats.
Shut down the all-night, all-you-can-eat rat buffet. The rats are absolutely going to hate this announcement. The rats don't run this city. We do. The rats hate that too.
This is not Ratatouille. Rats are not our friends. We are taking the fight to the rats.
Well, you know what?
Oh my God. So
I love the notion that these damn rats have gotten, they're on their high horse or something because of Ratatouille. They've been emboldened. They're out here just running shit in New York, need to be put in their place. or whatever the hell is going on here. I mean, you know, a pest problem is a pest problem, but they seem to have a serious fixation on the rats.
I mean, it's like they can't fix the subway, so they're going to performally execute some fucking rats. I just like this will give NYPD something useful to do if they're just going around killing rats. But we talked a lot about LA city politics in the Patreon episode the other day, so I thought we'd talk about New York a little bit because this is a little personal anecdote. I had a job in New York once, took the overnight flight, went straight to the office, and I get up out of the subway coming off the airport. The first thing I see on the Fair Island of Manhattan is a rat had suffocated to death in a trash bin. I was like, good to be back.
Yeah, that's an appropriate. Yeah, that's a fitting first sight.
Yeah, but it's like all politics is local to a certain extent, and the idea that like Adams is an abject failure, everybody hates him. He lies constantly. He can't fix shit. He talks about crime and inequality. The first one's not really a huge problem in New York, where they pretend it is. Inequality is a huge problem. They're not going to do anything about it. Other stuff that's going to go into state it is like pedestrians get hit all the time by cars, and cops protect you. It's vehicular homicide is legal in New York. It's absolutely fucking legal, and they can't fix the subway, which it runs at like 1907 level quality. But they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to murder a bunch of fucking rats, and they do a whole press conference and media run about it. And they act like the rats can read the newspaper, which is the part.
I know, yeah, that was my favorite part. It's like the rats ain't going to like this. When the rats hear what we got in store for them, they're going to be pretty upset. Okay, yeah, it just feels like any New Yorkers just listening to that, like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like you said, what about all the other stuff? Like, no, let's focus on the rats.
New York mayor is an interesting job because some people say it's the second most powerful job in America behind the president. It's probably the closest thing to being president in terms of all the interest you have to manage and the budget power you have. And NYPD has the budget the size of most militaries. But I've never heard of one actually being popular. This is Giuliani on 9/11. And Giuliani was unpopular before that. The mayor is essentially elected as like an avatar for every single New Yorker to hate.
Right.
And people still want the job. I don't fucking understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. But moving on, our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass, Minnesota colleges for desegregating, apparently, according to this guy. It seems like. Let's hear from this guy at the University of Minnesota Board of Regents meeting.
Is it possible that at Morris we've become too diverse? Is it possible, all from a marketing standpoint? For instance, Chancellor, I've received a couple letters, two actually.
I got two letters
because it is too diverse. Let's say
a
campus. They just didn't.
So
they didn't feel comfortable.
I do want to say that guy's absolutely lying that as an American politician, you only got two racist letters. I find that hard to believe. So this guy's name is Steve Svigum. This is in Minnesota. He's talking about a satellite campus, University of Minnesota. He's currently on the University of Minnesota Board of Regents, and he's also the executive assistant and communications director for the Republican caucus in the Minnesota Senate. So he's still employed by in electoral politics. He's a former speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, and he's there asking if a college campus is too diverse from a marketing perspective, which is funny for a couple of reasons. One, Matt crunched the numbers, and that campus is exactly 0.3% more black and brown than the American population as a whole. It's like 60% white and 40%, people who identify as something other than that when they check their boxes, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even like, what the fuck is he talking about? And also, we talk about diversity from a marketing perspective. Is an old joke that college brochures, like the school I went to was like my black friends I had there. We would joke about how every time they're hanging out in the public space on campus, a photographer would show up and take pictures. To put in the fucking brochure.
Right. Yeah, because in the brochures, it's always like you have a white kid, a black kid, a kid in a wheelchair, an Asian kid holding a notebook or whatever. Yeah, like you said, it's a very old premise, but it's just funny because he's like, is it possible that colleges would be better if they were all white? Like, can we just talk about that for a second? Have we considered the possibility that minorities are a mistake in higher education? Like, just
asking questions.
I'm just throwing it out there. I just thought maybe, we can table it for later or whatever, but just, food for thought, something to think about.
I thought there were no bad ideas. We're just brainstorming here.
Yeah.
Just what a fucking asshole.
That's ridiculous. All right. Our next honorable mention for Daily Dumbass, Large Brain Marge for not securing all the evidence custody in the big divorce. That's right. Listen to this bombshell.
Lying about me, and you will not defame my character in that manner.
Did Joe Biden win the election, Congresswoman Green?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Absolutely,
Marcus.
but you pushed a big lie that said he did not win the election.
There was election fraud.
You drove those people to the Capitol on January 6th with your lie.
We're going to move on. Josh Rowe, it's your turn to ask a question to Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have FOIA evidence of proof of election fraud that came out.
Excuse me. We're
moving
on to the next question for you.
So there's a lot going on there. One, he addresses her with respect, and Congressman Green, and she just calls him Marcus. That's Marcus Flowers, by the way, Corey's
friend of the show.
Marcus Flowers. Hey, he's been on. I wasn't on that episode. I forgot. Yeah, he's been on the show.
No, Corey was ridiculous right before we brought him on, and it was a wee bit awkward. But Marcus is great. Anyway, go
ahead. She says they have the proof of election fraud. Her husband has it, which is hilarious that, because he just left her. I'm assuming he took the evidence with him, as you would do. But also that she says they FOIA'd it, which, Freedom of Information Act request. So she thinks they sent a form to the government, public records request, said, give us evidence of voter fraud. The government's like, here you go. And they wrote, here's how we did voter fraud.
Yeah, that's great. Also, I didn't know at first. I was like, is this supposed to be a thing where she's like, so that's why I don't have it. See, it's because of the divorce. Like my husband, I would have it, but he's got it all. And what are you going to do? I'm getting divorced, but I don't know why I'm looking for any level of logic in there. But no, I'll remind you and the audience real quick, since it sort of came up and was very funny, if unfortunate to me, when you weren't on an episode and Corey was sitting in and Marcus came on, in part because he, knew Corey already. And that was sort of the idea. We had talked extensively about Marcus comes on at 5:30. 5:30, we need to go, whatever we're doing, we need to wrap it up, go to Marcus. Matt had put in the private chat, Marcus here, he's in the lobby, we're ready to go, whatever. 5:29, Corey chooses to launch into a big diatribe, hypothetical diatribe in which Republican politicians were getting pegged in the butt by their mistresses with an apple shoved in their mouth and being flogged and humiliated sexually in graphic detail. And then it was like, all right, everybody, Marcus Flowers, here we go.
Here's a serious political candidate.
So, I don't know. But
presidential candidates could go with Bill Maher. I'm sure it's fucking fine.
No, it was fine. I mean, it's funny. It was a very Corey moment. But that's all we got for dumbasses. Well, not really. That's the end of the dumbass segment. But we are talking about the midterms. We're talking about the races, how they're going, and there's a whole lot of dumbassery wrapped up in this whole thing. Mark.
Yeah, it sure is. I read this piece today. From Slate called "Democrats Grapple with Strong Chance That GOP Mega Bozos Will All Win Their Races Because of the Price of Gas." And I wanted to put my head through a plate glass window and just bleed out. This is the dumbest thing. The reason it's dumb to me is it's extremely economically short-sighted. There's tons of data that shows they get better job growth and healthier economies under Democratic presidents. That's mostly because they make saner economic choices because they believe in stuff like data. Whereas if you want to do a comparison, in British politics right now, Liz Truss has been prime minister for 6 weeks. Her party just won a huge election a year and a half ago, and she's down to a 16% approval rating because she introduced a budget plan that's essentially Republican light. And it tanked the British pound to the point where everyone's fucking broke. So if they held the election now, Labor would get 10% of the seats in Parliament. So anyway, my point is vote for Republicans, counter the economy works is a vote to be forward.
I know. I mean, that's the shittiest part about. Well, I don't know if it's the shittiest part about the whole Republican dynamic in this country, but the way they have pretty successfully sold a lot of people on the idea that we are the ones who fixed the economy. Like that, the idea, it's like, okay, listen, you may not like all the racism and sexism and all that, or you may love it. That's great too. But either way, you all know that we are the money people. We're the ones who make the economy good. And that's why, so you see shit like this, it's being framed as people being like, I'm not crazy about Roe being overturned or any of that stuff. I'm alarmed by some of this, but the economy, we got to fix the economy. So I feel like I have to vote Republican, and it's just infuriating because, like you said, that shit ain't true either. It hasn't been true in a long time. Like, I mean, unless you're super fucking rich, voting for Republican is not in your own economic self-interest for the most part, but it persists. The belief persists.
Yeah, and it's also it hands like our whole national sovereignty over to like Saudi Arabia and Russia because they can decide when gas prices go up. Because like we can't all the places that control the price of gas. Just look at the members of OPEC, but also like the major oil and gas producers like Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela. Ask yourself if you want to give them your vote, because this is essentially what we're doing is we're going to control over who wins American elections to those countries. And I don't think that's fucking smart or good. And I wish somebody in the Democratic Party would make that case plainly. I've seen some lower level Democrats, some make it, but like nobody with a major megaphone like Joe Biden's doing it, or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. And it's I find it mildly infuriating. You got a couple of Senate proposals to like stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia until they help us out with oil and gas, but like no one really thinks we're not going to do that because American arms manufacturers would fucking throw a fit, and they've got very powerful lobbyists. They're making a ton of money off Saudi Arabia, some weapons to Saudi Arabia to like, kill Yemeni civilians. So anyway, but these forces are so powerful. By the way, just before we're talking about gas prices, I do want to say that same piece notes that analysts expect gas prices to go down soon because what happened was a bunch of American what do you call it? Oil processing
refineries
plants,
or something.
Oil refineries. Yeah, we're like offline or needed improvements or need to expand their capacity, and they're almost done doing that. But the idea that who controls the United States Senate is decided by whether or not British Petroleum can finish upgrades at a facility in Illinois is like ridiculous to me.
Right.
And if they're not going to do it fast enough, Joe Biden should fucking nationalize it and fix it because this is too stupid and powerful to like let it happen this way. But like the combined effects of this is that races that shouldn't be close for a whole host of reasons are close, including two of the biggest fucking clown shows that I can recall in American history, and that's the Senate races in Georgia and Pennsylvania, who got even crazier this week. So as you watch this, I want you to think about whether or not it's worth paying 25 cents or less a gallon of gas to have these motherfuckers be able to vote to take away all your rights and benefits as an American citizen. So first of all, this happened last week in the Warnock versus Walker debate. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but obviously.
One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer, and I've never threatened a shootout with the police.
Well, and now I have to respond to that.
We are moving on, gentlemen.
I have to respond to that. And you know what's so funny? I am with many police officers, and at the same time,
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, he pulled out a badge.
Yeah.
Mr. Walker, excuse me, Mr. Walker. Please, out of respect, I need to let you know, Mr. Walker, you are very well aware of the rules tonight.
Yes.
And you have a prop.
Yes.
That is not allowed.
Yes, I do.
Put that prop away.
Well, it's not a prop.
You give talk about. She gets admonished for using a prop.
He says it's not a prop, it's real. But yeah, he pulls out a badge. He goes, well, in fact, I am work with police. And then insists that the badge is real. And it's not at all.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's that, did he like, you think and either one is dumb, but like, do you think he anticipated this coming up and was like, I got just the thing to shut that down, my badge? Or do you think he always has that badge on him in his coat pocket?
He pretty clearly always has it on him, but like, it's like that. The thing about people with law enforcement community talk about licensed Leos. The badge is a sign you're a licensed law enforcement officer. If you don't have the license, it is a fucking prop. I can go to the dollar store and buy a badge. It doesn't give me the right to detain people. But like he says, I am whatever he said. I say I am a police officer, but then said I am work with police.
Work with police officer. Yeah.
It's not clear during all this whether or not he believes he's a real cop. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I think he thinks he's a cop.
Yeah.
He's like, but also the middle part of what Warnock was talking about got completely ignored, where he said he threatened shootouts with cops. He's talking about how he put a gun to a woman's head and said he'd kill her and then commit suicide by a cop. Now, how is that not a major feature of this fucking campaign? And how is this guy only behind by 2 points? And he was tied until the abortion stuff came out.
I mean, I don't know how you make it a major meaning. I've seen that get brought up a lot. I've seen ads that mention that in it. The thing about putting a gun to his wife's head and all that shit. It's not like they've just been ignoring it or not trying. It's just like none of this shit seems to matter to the base or a lot of the voters in Georgia, because it's all come out and has been national news. There's been so many it's hard to keep up with, but I don't know. It's been pushed. People just don't give a shit because gas is so high.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could understand, gas is high, that affects my life. Whether or not Herschel wants to shoot it out with cops doesn't affect my life. But whose life it does affect is cops. And watch this.
This is Herschel Walker. This is the badge I flashed at the debate. And this is my sheriff, Sheriff Rowley.
Yes. If Herschel's badge is a prop, then I guess this badge I wear every day to protect the citizen, I guess it's a prop also.
Dude, he threatened to shoot you if you came to stop him.
My friend for all he's done for this country.
You stop him, man. This is all so fucking infuriating. And the fallout from this, instead of just acting embarrassed by it, just plowing ahead and acting like this is maybe he thinks it's a better debate to have than the one about that lying about being a cop is a better campaign issue than lying about paying for an abortion you lied.
Right.
I mean,
or like you said, maybe he, cops do that honorary deputy thing or whatever. I've heard of that being a thing, but that's what happened with him, I guess. And even though honorary's in the title, he may not know that word, and he's like, well, I got the badge. They told me I was I would sincerely believe that he actually thinks that he is some kind of actual cop, because and for no other reason, it's like, look, I got this badge, and a lot of other people have pointed this out too already, but it's like, it's like that badge is like the wings that pilots give out to kids. Like my sons, I guess, are both trained pilots, because they got a pair of those wings the first time they flew on an airplane, but I don't know. I'm not trying to let him off the hook by saying, no, I think he genuinely believes it. I'm just trying to emphasize just how dumb I think it is possible that he is, and that he does think that he's like, no, I didn't lie. See, I am right.
But either option means he should not be trusted to be in the United States.
Of course it does. Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm not even trying to defend him at all, because it's like, which one is worse, in terms of potential as a U.S. senator. But I don't know. There's just he's smush brained, man.
Yeah. I cannot figure out what's going on with him. So Matt, throw that picture back up from the MSNBC, because he did an MSNBC interview where a reporter is trying to get to the bottom of what he actually thinks about this, which, just as we're discussing, is pretty fucking impossible. He pulls it out. Let me read a quote from it. From Walker: "That is a legit badge. I carry it with me all the time. It's a real badge. It's not a fake badge. If anything happened in this county, I have the right to work with the police in getting things done. I work in law enforcement."
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he's trying to pretend this isn't like an embarrassing fiasco. This is a quote from a local prosecutor. It says, quote, "Being an honorary deputy is like having a junior ranger badge." Look at the quote I have on screen. What Walker has is a toy given to him because he used to play football. As we discussed, the candidate tried to use this prop to, quote, get things done alongside real police officers. He could be arrested for impersonating a cop. Exactly. He's not allowed to do any of this shit. It's like it's like Matt Gaetz's best friend who gave himself a badge and a fake light would pull people over, even though it was a county tax assessor. These guys are like I generally make fun of the concept that pretty much every white person thinks of themselves as a cop.
Mm-hmm.
But stop thinking of yourselves as cops, people. This is not like the two. in Georgia, those two guys just got long prison sentences for appointing themselves law enforcement, investigating a guy who was innocent, they thought, of trespassing or theft or whatever, and executed him in the street.
Yeah.
You don't have to be doing that shit. And this is just like, this is being drafted. The way, whatever Walker thinks, by the way, he's got a whole new campaign staff now, so I'm not sure if anybody can get control over him or whether this is part of a plan. But, and the guys that are protecting him, or maybe because they're as stupid as he is, they've gone all on the idea that impersonating a police officer is good politics because it reminds people that you're pro-law enforcement. Watch this dumb analyst in CNN if you have that video, man.
I've been told that they're going to really double down on this issue and his connection with law enforcement. They're going to make up little badges and hand them out at the next campaign events as they get up to the election, because they want to show that his record on fighting crime is much stronger than Raphael Warnock, and his
and what
background in defunding
universe does that are those two things related? Having fake badges mocked up and distributed at a campaign event, what the fuck does that have to do with Raphael Warnock's record on crime? Like, it don't even begin to make no. It's just like, see, we good, badge good, you good, we good, Herschel good, all good. You know who don't have a bunch of fake badges? Reverend Warnock. And they're like, that's true, he doesn't.
Yeah.
You got my vote.
He's running around saying that, like, Warnock wants to defund the police, which he doesn't. I mean, he hasn't said he does. I don't know what's in his heart of hearts. He's at, like, but like, even the way this race is covered. So they did that debate we just did a clip from. The moderators did this thing where they talked about both of their personal issues. Walker's was beating and threatening to kill his wife, lying about an abortion he paid, not spending time with his kids, threatening to shoot cops, yada, 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 yada. And they turned to pivot to Warnock. Actually, Warnock went first in the states, but I want to, like, the question to him about their equally significant personal issues was after his divorce, when his income got a lot larger, him and his wife went back to court to adjust their settlement, so he paid more in child support.
Right. Yeah. It's like, so clearly he has issues with being a family man too, right? They're basically the same. You know, sure, one guy fathers a bunch of children he has nothing to do with and threatens to kill their mothers in front of him and all that type of thing. But, you know, this guy had to pay his kids more money after getting divorced. Yeah.
And it wasn't even framed like he fought it. It's just like, when you have, these are court-arranged settlements, you can't just work it out with your wife yourself. You got to put it in writing, so you go to court. It's like, so this guy's big personal failing is getting a divorce. And I personally have never gotten divorced, Trey, so I am better than Raphael Warnock, the right reverend. I will say that. So anyway, they seem to think this is good politics. I do not. And before we play the second clip, this is from a different debate, one which Walker did not show up for.
Right.
Instead, he did a Sean Hannity appearance and talked about how it was just smart. He won the first debate so handily. It was smart for him not to go. And he was represented by an empty podium, which is why you're going to see an empty podium in this clip. So here we go.
Because I work for Georgia, and I'm not going to be distracted about what Herschel Walker says about me. He doesn't tell the truth about himself. He said that he graduated from college. He didn't. He said he was valedictorian of his class. He wasn't. He said he started a business that doesn't even exist. And the other night when I said he pretended to be a police officer, he presented a badge as if that were proof that he really is a police officer. And now he wants us to think that he's a senator. I think
when the main thing people know about you at this point is that you're a huge liar, lies about everything, reminding them you're a big liar by defending your lie for being true when it's obviously a plastic badge, you're not a licensed law enforcement professional, which people can look up in public records, seems like bad politics to me. It seems like it shouldn't work. But we're through the looking glass here, and gas is up 25 cents, so therefore we got to do fascism.
But it's also kind of like, I don't know, it's sort of right out of the Trump playbook, isn't it? And a lot, you know what I mean? Like, just the whole like, just lie and continue to lie and then lie about your lying and also act like your lying is not a big deal and be like, fuck you, it means I'm smart, don't mean I'm bad, you know, and that whole thing, and just keep running it. And, you know, I mean, he sort of wrote the book on that whole thing.
Yeah, but Trump's been practicing lying on TV for 40 years. And while Herschel was in the weight room and doing, tire drills in football practice, Trump was doing those reps on lies, baby. So like, I don't know if
Mark,
you're going to be able to catch up with you.
Are you? I might have this wrong, but I don't think I do. I'm pretty sure this is a real thing. Another one of Herschel Walker's lies, I believe, was that he used to say that he never worked out, or that he did he didn't lift weights. He's never in his life lifted weights. He did 20 push-ups a day and ran a mile or something like that, and that's all the exercise you need to be a world-class athlete. So you just reminded me of another one.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. So now we've talked about all the reasons Herschel Walker should be getting blown out in humiliating fashion. Let's talk about reality. Because he's behind about 2 points. Since all this stuff started, since the abortion news broke, all that's moved is like 2.5 points, and it's still within the margin of fucking error. That poll looks a little old to me, but yeah, the one I read today, the write-up on 538 says, now we have new polling data that suggests this story might have cost Walker some support. This polling aggregate shows that Raphael Warnock leading on average 48 to 45 among likely voters. Previously, for those same pollsters, recent surveys before the news broke, they were essentially tied at 47% each. So after all this has happened, Warnock's gone up 1 point and Walker's gone down 2. That's all it's affected shit. And I'm very fucking confused and disheartened. But while we're talking about polling, ignore them. I saw an interview with a pollster last week talking about the crisis in polling, and they get like a 0.4% response rate. So
man.
They have to call constantly for 2 hours to get one person to answer the phone and talk to them. And I don't know what those people are representative of. So it could be off significantly in any or all directions. Now, the pollsters are smart people who get paid good money to try to give people accurate results. So they're trying their ass off, because if you're not accurate, you don't get paid. I'm sure they figure out ways to adjust their models to account for all this shit, but they don't know if the models they built to account for it are accurate until after the votes are counted, they compare it to the polls. So anyway, act like you're down 20 and vote.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
This is probably more important related to Georgia. Today was the first day of early voting, and 130,000 votes were cast on the first day, according to the Secretary of State's office. That surpasses the record for first day of early voting in a midterm in 2018, 6 years ago. So I'm assuming that's good news. I mean, it's news that people vote, but it's also just be bad news for Republicans and a lot of people vote.
Right.
Especially a lot of people vote early. So anyway, vote. You can vote if you're in Georgia now. Now, let's go to Dr. Oz, because this is just a bunch of fun. So first of all, there's no way to couch this. Dr. Oz drinks his piss. Matt, roll a clip.
Depending on what we're putting in it, it'll smell one way or the other. Urine, by the way, if you haven't had anything fancy, has a sort of a nutty smell to it. And that sort of tastes like that, too.
All right. And then, he was way ahead of the game, dude, because I thought they didn't start drinking their pee until COVID became a thing. But that's clearly an old clip. So, he was on the vanguard of piss drinking, Dr. Oz was. I like these also like a piss sommelier, apparently. You know what I mean? He's like talking about notes, got nutty notes and stuff like that. Hints of asparagus, some floral tones. He's wild.
I don't know why it took so long for this clip to be dug up, because this is a clip from the Jimmy Kimmel Show in 2009, where they talked to him about it when he was just a TV personality promoting a show. And he said that he was in medical school. It's something they all do in medical school. And every doctor I've seen talk about that. It's like, we know we don't drink our fucking piss in medical school. He's like, the weirdest thing we do is practice drawing each other's blood. But what the fuck?
It makes me think, I mean, who knows with his crazy ass, but it's funny to me to think that the bunch of other doctors or med students who are in there with him, that one night at a party, one of them was like, I bet you I can get Oz to drink his own piss. They're like, no, you can't. He's like, no, watch me. I'll just tell him it's something we all have to do. It's like a whole thing, rite of passage or whatever. He'll totally do it. And then, 20 years later, he's on TV talking about piss drinking, blaming it on med school.
Yeah. I don't fucking understand. The same interview, he also said, he told Kimmel that he tried to stick a needle in his sister's head when they were kids.
Yeah.
He literally, his dad was a doctor, I guess, who had needles around all the time. So he would stick them in oranges all the time. He's trying to use the anecdote, a charming anecdote about how I always wanted to be in medicine. But here's a quote. And one day I noticed my sister's head had little pores in it too. And I still remember, I swear, watching her head from behind And he mimicked how he crept up behind his sister with the needle. I threw it in there, and it didn't go in. The skull got in the way. I got no brain. I got nothing back. He tried to fucking kill his sister with a needle when he was a kid.
Dude, and thinking that is, like you said, a charming anecdote that will make for good panel fodder on a network late night talk show is some wild shit to me. And they pre-screen all that shit, but I'm sure they were like, well, this is fucking crazy. We'll totally let him say this. In fact, I think Kimmel then said to him, you're the craziest person I ever had on the show or something like that. But that Oz thought it would be just like, you know, a heartwarming little story of, you know, adolescent naivete or whatever the fuck he thinks was going on in his head. Is pretty wild.
So to recap, he drinks his piss. He tries to stab his sister with the needle. A scandal recently where he oversaw the murder of a bunch of dogs. He said people that are fat deserve to have strokes. He's only down like 2 points. He's only down like 2 points. And like a local news station got a clip of him today. And if we're talking about the economy and stuff, this should be fucking checkmate. Roll this, man.
Dietitians will tell you that red meat in your diet is not always the healthy choice, but pricing meat to make it unaffordable to average families, well, that's not something most candidates would suggest.
If we did not subsidize the food in this country, a pound of meat would cost us $90, and you wouldn't be eating a lot of it.
Appearing at the Ad Institute's Health Forum more
So,
than a decade ago.
you cut it, Matt. This sounds like the caricature of Republicans think that AOC argues for.
Right. Yeah. Basically, he made this argument that we should charge more for unhealthy foods to force people to eat healthier because they can't afford things like meat and stuff like that. And that's from years ago, but that was his whole stance. And then, of course, recently he went viral for calling vegetables crudité and lamenting how expensive they were. Like, he just wants your average day, your average Joe to be able to go down to the grocery store and be able to afford their food. But he has in the past openly advocated for making food much more expensive, not vegetables, but still either way.
He had like this, I can't believe, forget politics, just for like, as a professional, I have so little esteem for these campaigns. They're being run by absolute fucking clowns who should deserve to lose and be unemployed. And instead, what they're doing is shit like this. Another one thing that came out this week, he staged a photo with someone who lost a memory to gun violence. Like, he pretended to have this candidate forum with a woman who's worried about crime in the context of saying a bunch of racist bullshit about, race baiting bullshit about how John Fetterman's too soft on criminals. And he did reveal the woman he was talking to about gun violence was on his campaign's payroll. And the thing is, the woman's story is, as far as I can tell, at least half true. Except about losing an uncle and a nephew to gun violence. They found the nephew, so there's no reason to lie.
Right.
You could just say that this is why I got involved with Oz's campaign and I was happy to work for him because I'm passionate about this issue. They just lied as a reflex.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to me, being like, I have a woman on my staff, very dedicated member of our staff and part of our family here at the Oz campaign, and she means a lot to me. And she's been personally impacted by the horror that is gun violence, whatever. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just framing it that way. Like you said, you don't have to lie about any of that. They just do, because it's their default position.
Yeah, and he's like down. Oz is down like 2.5 points at this point to Fetterman because of a bunch of race baiting attacks and Republicans who don't like Oz coming home because they don't want Fetterman to win. But like, that's within the margin of error. That's within the margin of error, and the press is doing everything. We talked about it. I can't remember if we talked about it Friday or last Tuesday, but about how the press is going all in on the same basis that John Fetterman's mentally incapacitated because he had a stroke. And again, going back to the economy stuff, like, Republican tax policies, they make the stock market buzz in the short term because that's what happens. You take all the rules and governors off stuff. If you make it legal for oil companies to dump chemicals in a river, their stock will go up. That is true. But in the long run, we're all fucking dead. So if everyone would think a little bit more long term, because a vote for Republicans is a vote to be poor, and a vote for authoritarians is a vote to be poor, because one party states, and that's where we're headed towards unless somebody gets their shit together, Democratic Party, it's a formula for corruption. because they can get away with anything. So all they do is hand sweetheart goes through buddies and everyone else is locked out, and they have no interest in making policies better for working people because your vote doesn't work. It doesn't matter. So anyway, Bernie makes this point in this video that we'll watch, and then we're done, and then we'll be done with this topic.
We live in a moment, Chuck, in which we see an economy where the people on top are doing well while working people are struggling. You got more income and wealth inequality today than any time in the history of the United States. 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of the people in our society. That is insane. So what I think is Democrats should talk about the economy. I think they should contrast their views with the Republican positions. I believe, and most Democrats believe, that at a time when half our people live in paycheck to paycheck, we should raise the minimum wage to a living wage. No Republicans support that. I think we should make it easier for workers to join unions. Republicans don't support that. I believe that when you have billionaires not paying a nickel in some cases in federal income taxes, we should demand that the rich and large corporations start
you can cut it back.
their share.
He then talks about how they, on the other hand, like you already said earlier, on the other hand, they propose we cut Social Security and Medicare and all that, or Medicaid. And so, Bernie, as always, keeping it real on the economic issues.
Yeah, I think I know I talked in the pre-show. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but like House Republicans candidates are promising to refuse to raise the debt ceiling unless Democrats in exchange cut Social Security and Medicare. Which the hostage there is either you starve old people or you collapse the world economy into a global Great Depression.
Right,
and like that's what they're running on. And
I know. I don't get so. Matt, first of all, find some questions and comments and put them up there. But yeah, and I think that came up on a previous episode at one point, but I don't understand. I mean, old people, I thought old people was their bread and butter. And before any of y'all start going in on us, I don't mean all old people. I'm just saying, I thought, old people vote more than young people do. And a lot of the narratives about Republicans and their bait, it's papaws and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they're like actively targeting the papaws now, it seems to me, like in a really egregious fashion. But
I think probably what they do to solve that problem is phase it out in the future. So you pass a bill saying it'll be eliminated by 2050 or whatever after gradual cuts. And so the current people are grandfathered in and get their benefits and they get their tax cut.
Dude,
for not paying for future generations.
Never mind. I'm an idiot. I don't know why I didn't think of that. That's that makes all the sense in the world. That shit will work too, buddy. And I ain't gonna have no problems with that. Oh,
well, Matt's looking for comments. I wanted to mention a story that I think is definitely worth talking about. Missouri woman denied emergency abortion call. She called a state senator for help, and he sent her to an anti-abortion clinic. So what happened was this Missouri woman, she was 17 weeks pregnant and her water broke. And the doctor essentially told her there was no way to save the baby. And if she kept the baby, if she didn't have procedure, she'd have complications, including risk of sepsis, loss of her uterus, and maybe even dying. This woman's 41 years old. The doctor recommended abortion, but of course she couldn't give her one under state law. So they called her state senator and was like, "Can you help me out here? I need an exception because I'm going to die if I can get this procedure." He said, "Sure." And then he referred her to one of those, pretend abortion clinics. It's actually an anti-abortion propaganda place. And they, of course, couldn't help her because what she needed wasn't propaganda literature. What she needed was actual medical care.
Mm-hmm.
And he then ghosted her and just, I guess, hoped she died before he called back and bugged her again. There's a Republican state
He also
senator
told her that actually the law that was causing her the issues in the first place was actually intended specifically to help her and women like her. It's so funny. Just like, what you don't understand about this situation is actually this is good for you. Okay. This life-threatening situation that you're in that we have caused through our, regressive policies. It's actually a good thing that you should be thankful for. Debbie Lynn Robinson says, hit that like button. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share, rate, review, tell all your friends, all that good internet stuff. We appreciate it.
This woman, she did end up getting, she first of all, I wanted to tell you that she described herself as moderately pro-life, which is absolutely fine. But like, this is necessary medical care. So she didn't even consider this to be an abortion because the pregnancy wasn't viable, but she still couldn't get the procedure. And I just want to point out again another example of how everyone has an exception for themselves. You know what I'm saying? My situation special. It never occurs to people they might need this procedure, but a lot of people do need it. And she ended up getting an abortion care fund to fund her travel into another state to get the health care she needed done. So she did not die. But when we talk about Republicans make you poorer, this woman, if she had to pay out of pocket, she'd have been gone. The money for the procedure, the flight, the hotel, days off from work, all that stuff, because she needed to see a fucking doctor. And they passed this stupid bill. So I think she'd pay 10 cents higher in gas prices to get all that money back. Although like I said, somebody else at charity covered it. But again, that's charity. It's not.
Also, and gas prices aren't even, actually, they don't work that way anyway. But Jim Gray says, what's your all's take on the last January 6th hearing? We talked
about the Patreon.
Yeah. Friday. So just so everybody knows, let's just look at Matt being shrewd. Yeah, that's one of the topics. One of the topics we covered on a bonus, our most recent bonus Patreon episode. Not that we won't answer your question. Go ahead, Mark.
I think our consensus was it was effective but underwhelming, just because the stuff they're describing is super urgent and important, but they're not acting like it's urgent and important. Like the report they're writing will come out after the election. The subpoenas they issued, like subpoena Trump, the clock will run out on that before the committee expires in January, probably. Pretty much all they've succeeded in doing is getting Steve Bannon a few months in jail for contempt. And it's just like, if democracy is really at stake, you got to be running around with your hair on fire, looking like it's at stake. You got to look busy, motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
And this stuff that's been covered is compelling. I just don't know it. I don't even know if it got covered on the nightly news.
Right. Yeah, and it's pretty much what I was saying about them the whole time. Like you said, it was important. It was imperative that they do it. I'm glad they did it and all that stuff. But the whole time I was saying, I want to see what all of it ultimately actually amounts to, and I suspected the whole time the answer would probably be not all that much really. And it's still sort of seeming like that to me. Yeah. Cell Sword King says effective, but underwhelming. The fucking mood. Yeah. So they mark summing it all up.
If you want to see how they should sound, wait till next February when the Republicans are holding wall-to-wall hearings about Hunter Biden's laptop. And compare and contrast how fucking dumb that topic is with their tone, and the Democrats' sober, calm, not scared tone with the content they're talking about. So,
yep. Yeah. Christy Faust says kitty litter in bathrooms making the rounds again. Yeah, that one's too stupid to die there. That one's got real legs.
We talked about that on Friday too, but just we did find some real kitty litter, or NBC News did. They got to the bottom of it. They found some kitty litter in the schools, and what it is, it's in go buckets that a school in a Colorado district, the same district that Columbine High School uses to prepare for school shootings. The kitty litter in the buckets so the kids can pee and poop when they're under lockdown.
It's fucking nightmares all the way down, buddy.
Yeah.
Anytime you pull back the curtain in this country, all you're going to find is horrific bullshit. Appalachia Fungorum says, how about Roger Stone?
Yeah, he was on one again today. The documentary footage the January 6th Commission showed, and CNN got more of later, where he's talking about, he called Ivanka an abortionist bitch,
right?
He said Jared Kushner had an IQ of 70. Anyway, he went on Alex Jones' show today, I think it was Alex Jones. Maybe it was Roger Stone. And Steve Bannon's, I forget. One of those morons. One of those horrifically gross-looking liars. He went on their show and said it was a deep fake, which is why he's suing the filmmaker for $25 million.
Oh, Cindy Jones says, stop being defeatist. We don't know that the Wreath thugs will win. A lot of us are working very hard to see that they don't. Yeah, and we appreciate it.
I actually think that Fetterman will win, and that's a coin flip whether Warnock wins. I'm not defeatist about their election prospects. I'm defeatist that it's fucking close. Right. This country should be smarter than this. That's what frustrates me. It's not anything that Democratic candidates are doing, or that it's my disappointments in 50% of the voters. So there you
go. I will answer this question real quick. Not that I would. Okay. Anita Germain says, any chance you're throwing your hat in the ring for the opening on the Daily Show? I think it'd be a perfect fit. First of all, thank you. Secondly, they would never, I don't think. But thirdly, no, I wouldn't even consider doing that, because as far as I'm concerned, Roy Wood Jr.
Roy
is
Roy
the
gets it.
only
Yeah.
is the only choice for that job. He's a friend of mine. I fucking love Roy, and also he's just the best, and it should be his before it should be anybody. So that's my thoughts on that. But again, I appreciate the thought though. All right. Well, that'll do it once again. Like I said, go to TreyCrowder.com, check out my tour, or and go to weeklyskews.com/more, or go on Patreon, look me up to get some bonus stuff where you can see all that January 6th talk and whatnot, and all the other things we cover over there on the Patreon. All right. That'll do it for the main show. We'll see you back here next Skews Day.